thank you so much for being with us tonight and for giving us up your time and talking to us about your careers, your stories, and with a particular focus on how mentoring has helped you in your careers and how you find mentoring to be a powerful tool to introduce the next generation of young women pursuing tech careers. And we're so grateful to you for the little bit that you're doing to do that. All right, so I'm going to hand the microphone over to the ladies between them, if that's all right. All right, can you all hear me? I have a big, lovely, booming South African voice. You can hear me. Yes, okay, marvelous, marvelous. All right, we're going to start with Siki Lele for our first question. Siki, can you tell us how you got started in tech? Tell us more about your career and what experiences have led you to technology as a career.
So it's quite an interesting story how I started in tech. I looked at positions where, one, there were not a lot of women in. Two, there was a lot of money. Three, there were a lot of intelligent people, and then I wanted to be part of that. So I was always, as a child, I'd always be looking at gadgets, trying to figure out, okay, how's it working? I remember in Swaziland, where I'm from, we had at the time, back in the day, a dial-up phone. And I'd always try to figure out, how did this thing work? How did it come together? Who were the people that made this work, that I could speak to somebody on the other side of the phone? And I wanted to be a part of something like that. So after, obviously, high school, I went to college, and I was studying computers and programming. And that's where I developed, obviously, such a passion for tech. And in that, I realized that there's so many advancements that you can do in tech, and there's so many different industries within tech, and there's so many different roles within tech, and that's basically what's led me to it. And through the years, my passion has always been to try and obviously encourage not just women, but it's also obviously the men as well, because we do need allies, like Ange said. We want to support those women that are in tech. So for me, there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of women that can actually be in tech, but it's not just about the women, it's about breaking the stigma of having guys accept women in tech, because that's very important as well.
Thank you, Siki. I'd like to pose the same question to Holly, if I may. Because I think your journey into tech was a little unorthodox, wasn't it? How did you get started in tech?
Yeah, so I didn't really have a technical background before I started the role that I have now, but I loved art and science and maths at school, but never really thought about a technical career. I went to uni to do art history, dropped out right before the end of the year, just wanted to leave, came back, did I worked as a carer for a bit, I worked as a fund administrator for a bit, I went to ShopRite for a bit, nothing really fit, and then I got ill, so I was out of work for 2 years, and then as I was coming back to the workplace, COVID hit. So finding a job was difficult, and the government did a summer internship scheme in the summer of 2020, and I just filled in a form on the off chance that I might get something, and I didn't want to be an administrator, so I put down maybe ICT. I've written like a few lines of HTML and CSS before, but I didn't really know how to code. And then I got a phone call from the local company saying, like, are you interested? I didn't understand half the things that were mentioned on the phone. Lots of technologies and frameworks I've never heard of before. I was like, I don't really know, but I'm like open to learn. So yeah, I started, it was a web development internship, and it was 6 weeks long, and then I just, right before the internship started, I realized that I probably need to learn how to build a website, so I went online, I reviewed to be one of the first website development courses that I could see. I crammed that in the week before my internship, and then I started my internship and then I left, and it was 4 years ago. Yeah,
I love that. And I think that's great because a lot of women, and I'm sure a lot of you that are here tonight can relate to this. We tend not to apply for jobs if we're not fully qualified and we have not got all the experience in the world. We need to be 100% know what we're doing before we walk in. Whereas men, and I generalize of course, will be like, to learn on the job, right? And they do. And we tend to hold ourselves back because we don't believe that we're capable of doing it. So I love that you tried it, and you said, I'm going to give it a go, and you did, and you've made a wonderful success of it. So well done on you. I mean, that's wonderful. Alexandra, your career to tech is perhaps, or your career in tech is perhaps not as well known as other jobs that is out there. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do and your career and how you came to it?
Yeah, so I am an IT business analyst, a business analyst. If you're in a tech role right now, you may know what it is, you may not know what it is, but what I do is I talk to businesses and I try to understand what their problems are, and I also try to help them find solutions that are often in tech. Now, if it's a tech-based solution, I am also, I have to speak two languages. I have to understand what the business wants, what their needs are, and I also have to communicate them in a way that makes sense to our developers and testers in order to actually implement the business needs into technology. Now, the thing about business analysis is that a lot of people fall into the role. So I was doing my master's degree on Ireland. I was working for a tech company, and my manager, who was a mentor to me, she said to me, you know, we're probably going to want to keep you. You have an analytical mind, why not business analysis? And, you know, I was doing this internship for well over a year. I'd known, you know, what people were doing, and I thought, yeah, this fits for me. But then over my career, I've spoken to a lot of business analysts, and they all have a similar story where no one really goes to school to become a business analyst. They might be a developer, they might be a tester, they might be an administrator. They work with business analysts and they realize, actually, this is what I want to do. I want to talk to people, understand their problems, and then build something from that. So one of the things that I try to do is tell people about business analysis, because you never know, maybe they're not happy in their role, or maybe they're curious, or maybe this is something that is right for them.
And that's great, and I think technology lends itself to that, doesn't it, as a career? So you start somewhere, and you find yourself segueing into something else that draws your attention, something that you find that you're good at, and you kind of make your career what you want, right? And that's what I love about technology. I guess very clearly is one. Monty, can you tell us a little bit about your chosen career and what do you love most about your job?
I just want to say first that good business analyst is what one day like to develop as a software developer.
Yeah.
I can tell that. But yeah, so I currently I'm a solution architect, which often people joke that is a role that the role name doesn't mean anything. And I totally agree with that statement. I'm a software developer at heart, so my journey to that started with hardcore software development, writing code, and all of that. But I very quickly realized that my strong suit actually is in my analytical mind, and in the fact that when I see a problem, I can analyze it both from the perspective of micro and macro scale, to see the connection and to see the solution, even if there are limited resources always. And so what I do now is more related to solving problems with technology, having certain limitations in, and making those pretty pictures, because one picture communicates better than 1,000 words. How did I go through here? It's like quite a long story, but in a few words, I was always fascinated by computers. As a small child, I had like a computer at home, and I was like, instead of playing games, I would make PowerPoints. Then I used to play games, of course. But I always loved computers because they just always do what you tell them to do. You just need to know how to do that. And there is this beautiful creativity in it. It's like often people think about software development, programming, as something that is very, hard rules, very rigid and very like structural. And it is all those things, but also there is a room for creativity, for problem solving, for how to approach that problem. Usually you have thousands of solutions, how to choose the right one, how to bend the system to do what you want it to do. And this is my love. I often joke that I like chaos because I can make order out of it. And this is what I do at work today.
Thank you so much. That's brilliant. Siki, can you share with us some of the obstacles and frustrations you've encountered along the way to where you are today in your tech career?
To be honest, some of the frustrations, it's not just about the stigma, but it's the stigma that you then as a woman put on yourself. It's the stigma that I'm not good enough, or it's the stigma that I don't belong in this room. So with all my ventures, obviously within tech, a lot of the time I would find that I'd either be the only woman, as an example, within the room or filled with men, making very high decisions. And sometimes those decisions would be questioned. But instead of standing my ground at times, I would question myself. So the frustrations for me has sometimes been within myself, because I needed to believe in myself and as well as my worth that I belong in this room. Yes, it might be full of gentlemen, of all shapes and color, but I have, there's a reason that I am here. There's a reason that my mind is here, and I needed to believe in my worth and my mind. And I think as women, sometimes we do forget that, because we do sometimes go into our feelings, and then you sometimes forget how powerful you are and as a source, and how, as women, we're very empathetic. So sometimes the decisions we make or the solutions we can bring to the table are actually what's needed to revolutionize not just companies, but the world. And sometimes we forget that. So to be honest, a lot of the frustration, now looking back in terms of my career, it's been within myself, because I have held myself back because of the self-doubt. And sometimes it's doubt that's been inflicted by others that I then took to account, instead of actually believing in myself. And that's why for me, LoveTech, Andrew, is so important to me, because it's a reminder not just to girls or to boys, but to everybody, that you need to believe in yourself. You need to be brave, not perfect. So that's something important, and that's the one frustration that I've always had.
That's amazing. I'm sure so many of us in the room can relate to that. Definitely. So there's actually a term for it, isn't it? Imposter syndrome. And all of us, I'm sure, have suffered from it at one point or another. So I think it is so important to be able to tell yourself that I deserve to be in this room, I deserve to sit at this table, and my brain is big and beautiful, and I absolutely deserve to be here. So thank you for sharing that. Martina, what frustrations have you encountered in your career?
How much time do we have? I think it's like when I started, my biggest frustration was that people look at me and see a small girl, blonde, which suddenly is in the same room as those serious guys in suits, and they have to listen to her. And they need to take serious what she has to say. I had meetings when I was in position as I was managing people. I had my team, and I had men on that team. And during that meeting, people would speak over me and address my team members because I was a woman. I learned very quickly how to address those kind of situations, and that doesn't sound very well, but assert my dominance over the room, because this is a skill that as a woman in IT you need to have. You need to every day to fight for your place at the table. There is certain levels of fierceness and tenacity that comes with it, and that's why I think us being here and still speaking about that is so important, because while with the time it got much more better, it's not so bad anymore, it's still a problem that we as the women are not seen as equal partners on that table. Even if we have the right skills, even if we have the right experience, even if we tick all the boxes, we are still seen not enough because of our gender. And this is my biggest frustration that I have. There is only one solution to that, is to participate in events like that, to share the word, to tell small girls that, no, you can't go to STEM, it's a career. You can be good at it. It's just, do you want to be? Because often girls and women are discouraged from going into technical fields because it's men dominated. And this is not good enough argument. It's just a fallacy, and we need to fight for it. So, yeah, that's me.
Your frustrations.
That's my frustration.
Absolutely, and I think you're right. It is important to talk about it, and we've made so many strides in the years, but it's not where it should be yet. So we've got some work to do, and that's why events like this are so important. And having gentlemen in the room as well, just understand our viewpoints. Because we have to bring men along for the journey as well, right? So we can't achieve change ourselves. We need to allow the men in our lives and our colleagues to understand what is happening, because sometimes they actually have no idea, and it's unconscious bias many times. So talking about it, being open about it, is really important, and that's why I'm so grateful for you being here tonight and being prepared to share in a room with these frustrations. Thank you so much. Hi, will you tell us something unexpected about your job that people might not know?
I think just the variety of it. And I work with a small team, and we've got clients in the US, we've got clients on the Isle of Man, in London, in Scotland, in South Africa. So in like a single day, I can be producing something that I'm delivering to a client in New York, and then the next minute I'm responding to some support requests from some level companies, and then I'm building a web page for a company in London, and then I'm building or fixing bugs or whatever with a middle app that's going to be distributed in South Africa. And I can do all that from a laptop in the office and don't have that.
That's great.
And you can touch bits of the work that you have never done too, and make that clear too. But just with the laptop, and it's very.
Yeah, you can touch people around the world, so that's wonderful. It's wonderful. Thanks. Alexandra, what would you say has been your biggest success in your career so far?
I'd say that I had 2 big successes that came right at the start of last year, so early 2023. So in February, I was promoted to senior business analyst, which is something I was working very hard towards. And then a few months later, I was named 30 under 30 for the work that I was doing in the business analysis community. If you heard my previous response, I'm all about trying to tell people about business analysis, And I think that both of those combined kind of, with the work I was doing with the business analysis community, it's about, I'm now in a position where I have the opportunity to, mentor other people. And that's something that's been really important to me, because I've had some really great mentors in my career path, mostly female, one notable male. And now I'm in this position where I can, look at the next generation, I can tell them about my career path, and in the workplace, I can help people out as much as I can.
That's great. Thank you so much. Siki, could you share with us a career success or a highlight that you are really proud of?
Alison. So there's someone in the room today, her name is Alison, and I met her through LoveTech, and she was currently going through her dissertation at the time, and my role was to mentor her and to assist her with her dissertation, and she completed that with flying colors. And she is progressed so beautifully in her role. And for me, that is a job that I take so proudly. It's knowing that I have made a difference in somebody's life. It's knowing that, through, whether the work that I do or the work I do with LoveTech, it's made an impact in someone's life. And that is something that is incredible, and that I'm absolutely most proud of.
That's wonderful, and congratulations. Wonderful. What a wonderful story. Thank you for sharing that. Martina, would you tell us about any mentors or role models that you've had while growing up as a child who may have inspired you to go down this route?
So, funnily enough, one reason why I'm here is because I didn't have role models when I was growing up as a child. Maybe it's more generic because, Poland. Maybe it's more related to the fact that at this point, going into technology and computer science was a little bit frowned upon. Luckily, though, I had a few mentors that I remember very fondly, and to this day keep in contact with. People that really truly believed that I can set my mind to something and achieve it. And maybe they didn't understand my end goal, but they truly believed and pushed me towards it. And having that support network of people that are always willing for you to listen to you and then try to problem solve with you, it's really, really important. I'm lucky in the term that my grandma was a math teacher and my mother is an accountant. So going into STEM was not something that they would ever discourage me from. And that support network was something that really, really helped me in the early parts of my learning, especially with my uni, because I knew that, hey, if they can do it, I can do it too. So that's why I think the work that we are doing here is very important to show people that, hey, it has been done. There is a path. It doesn't matter how you get there, but you can do that for us.
Absolutely. And Harley, I'm assuming you would agree with that. Do you think that women would pursue tech careers more if they had role models that were younger as children?
I think so. I mean, in my case, I was even aware that it was a thing that you could do. Sort of the completely unrelated. I remember when I was maybe 22, and my sister's boyfriend at the time was talking about comic books. And I was like, oh, I think comic books are cool, but I've never read one. And he was like, well, do you want to borrow some? So I read them, and I was like, oh my god, these are amazing. And I've never even considered reading a comic book. And not even consciously, I just assumed that it was a guy thing. But the boys read the comic books a bit, but it was never something I was consciously aware of. So, I could overanalyze the death of my childhood and how many things I did do and didn't do because I just didn't think that I was supposed to or I could. And just it's definitely getting better. It's not perfect now. But any improvement is always good. I wish Hannah fried up the appearance of feeling as well and stuff like that. Tech wasn't cool, or it was just a voice up when I was little, and I was fun.
We did so. And Alexandra, I'm sure you would agree with that as well. So I think it is having mentors, from children, to look to women like yourselves is so important. I know when I was growing up, you could be a lawyer or an accountant or a librarian or a doctor. Yes, that's right. Those were your choices, right? And then you couldn't be, but you didn't know about anything else. So being able to understand the different types of work that we do, and just raising awareness for the different roles, I think is how it is. Great.
Yeah, and definitely agree with that. Just thinking back to high school, we had a robotics club, and there was one girl, and everyone else was guys. And so I thought, I wanted I was going down a science path, and I didn't even think about tech or engineering because that was boys' club.
Absolutely, absolutely. So very right then. Siki, as an adult, how have mentors shaped your career path?
Massively, absolutely massively. So you would have heard me obviously speak about the imposter syndrome, but for me, I think the shift came in when I was the first technical lead that was appointed for my company, first female technical lead actually. And I realized the power in me and the power that obviously that we could drive. And for me, the one person that I've looked at that has shaped everything is there's a lady called Denise Coates. She is basically the co-founder of a company called Bet365, which is a huge company that a lot of people will be aware of. And she's one of the highest and paid CEOs of all time and most respected. And for me, when I could see an adult mentor do something like that, it made me realize, well, she can, so can I. And I want to make a difference. And I also want to help people make a difference. So seeing her do something like that has absolutely encouraged me as an adult, knowing that I can follow that path as well.
Montikina, why do you think it's important for women to join the tech?
So I'm a person that very believe and is heavily advocating for diversity. Because I can see how when I started company tech, how homogeneous and basically, white male kind of group it was. And the reality of it is that tech industry is also a creative industry. We are heavily building using our logic and our methodologies. But in the end, it's nothing without an idea. And it's nothing without those more creative aspects of, our minds. And working in those groups that are very homogeneous does not spark creativity. You need different people, we need different opinions, we need different backgrounds. And I don't think that a tech as a global industry can survive without allowing, women, with different sexuality and genders have equal part on the table. Because that's not the reflection of our society. And the reality of it is that the tech has much more impact on our lives than ever before. And we cannot allow it to not reflect our needs as a society and how we should see it should be shaped. Sorry, that's quite a heavy
But true, never a cruel word.
Just give me a nice question.
Alexander, you and each of the ladies on the panel here tonight are tech mentors for LoveTech. Can you tell us why you chose to be a tech mentor and what you've learned by mentoring others?
I've chosen to be a tech mentor of LoveTech. First of all, I noticed that I didn't have any business analysts, tech mentors. But with mentorship, the reason why I chose to be a mentor, why I wanted to be a mentor, both with LoveTech and just generally in the workplace, is because I've had some really great mentors in my own experience. It was a female mentor, my line manager at the time, who first said, you have an analytical mind, what about business analysis? I thought, sounds good, yeah. And then I went into the technical space in the workplace, and I had a mentor there who showed me the ropes. And during that critical time, when you step into this technical space and you don't have much experience there, he always believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. And then I've had other mentors who, showed me the ropes, reflected, when I spoke through a problem, they'd reflect back at me. And, I learned so much from being around these men and mostly women in the tech space. And I benefited so much that, I want to see, you know, the next generation of people, you know, I want to help people. I don't want people to suffer through some of the things that I've suffered through. You know, I want them, you know, we've talked a little bit about confidence and believing in yourself. I want to be that person, that cheerleader for somebody else so that they don't have to suffer through imposter syndrome and the things like that.
Brilliant, thank you, Alexandra. Hardy, could you share with us why you have joined as a tech mentor? And what advice do you have for anyone who would like to be a mentor?
So I became a mentor. I get frustrated by the idea that you'll look at lots of job descriptions and they'll say needs a degree, or a junior role that is supposedly entry level and you need a degree. And my background is definitely not like that. And I didn't see anyone else that had that background. The only sort of mentors I really had in my life that were women, I didn't really see anything on telly, or I didn't really see anything at school or in jobs. I'd never really had any sort of like mentors, but my family is a lot of women. And my dad. And they've always just kind of made their own way. My mom was made redundant and she was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start a business. My sister got frustrated with A-levels and was like, you know what, I'm going to quit. I'm going to study and I'm going to train to become. And every woman in my family has done something completely different and just been so driven to do it. And no one in my family has gone to university. And everyone's kind of found their thing and run with it. And I wish that everyone knew that you didn't have to go straight from school to uni into an apprenticeship. You can be, I remember being early 20s and I had no idea what I was going to do. And there was no entry-level job for me. I got very lucky that I had an internship. And even after the internship scheme ended, they created a new internship scheme that was the graduate role incentive for graduates. So I get quite frustrated with the fact that there's a gap in sort of young people that are a little bit lost and they just need a little sort of bit of hope or guidance to know that you can, you know, I even thought that being in your early 20s was too old to go back to college. So you can do it and you can do it after it. And it's not suddenly too late because you didn't go to uni straight away. And then in terms of advice, I think I find it interesting like how different everyone is, and you don't realise until you start talking to someone who wants a bit of advice that you're like, oh no, you're not thinking about it the same way as me, and which is part of the reason why diversity is so important. We all think so differently, and so when you're mentoring someone, to know that just because something works for you doesn't mean something works for them, and vice versa, and being open to generally compete for you on as well as them.
Brilliant, thank you so much. It's lovely being. Ziki, what do you believe young women need to know before they pursue tech career? And following on from it, what advice would you give your younger self when starting out?
So what I think young women need to know is, in the tech field, there's this phrase called boys club. Boy. So a lot of tech women will know what I mean when I say boys club. And in fact, it's in multiple industries. It's the fact that there's this terminology called boys club. However, just because there is a said boys club does not mean that you cannot, one, assert your dominance, and two, that you don't belong there. There can be a boys club. However, every single boys club needs a different vision. It speaks to diversity. It needs a different pathway. And that's the one thing that I wish I had told my younger self, is when I doubted myself, I spoke about, a lot of obviously the imposter syndrome and the doubt. I looked at the boys club and I thought, oh, hang on a minute, I probably don't belong there. And in fact, the boys club actually needed someone like me. They needed someone who thinks differently, that can change the business direction. And if I had realized that earlier, I feel that where I would be now would be loose and bound. as well as the business itself. So what I would say to my younger self is, yes, the Boys Club is there, but forget about it. Don't let it take control. Feed into that. You can change that. You can add to that Boys Club. Doesn't mean you need to be part of it. However, your voice deserves a space within that Boys Club as well.
Thank you so much. So true. Martina, what about you? What advice would you give your younger self?
First, that Martina, you are your worst critic. Nobody has as high standards for yourself as you. And that often people don't even are aware of those standards. We as women, we often strive to be perfect. And as Angela mentioned before, we don't apply for the jobs because we don't tick all the boxes. Nobody ticks all the boxes. And realizing the fact that you don't need to have all the skills, you don't need to have all the experience, it's because you have the knowledge, you have the know-how, you have done similar stuff before, is enough. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that young women face when they apply for roles in tech. They think that, oh no, I'm missing that one thing, or I never had the experience with that framework. But you learned 6 different frameworks last year. You can learn another one. It's not a problem. And we are often too focused on what we are lacking instead of what we can give to other people and what are our advantages. So yeah, don't measure yourself by roles because it doesn't have that.
Or at least give yourself a break.
Yeah,
Yes, excellent.
and eat that cake.
Even the cake. Alexandra, what role can our male colleagues or male team members play to best support their female peers in the tech space?
I think the first thing to consider for a male colleague is to be more mindful of social dynamics when you're in a common situation like a meeting. You know, be self-aware. You know, do you think that you are taking up? You know, are you talking over people? Are you listening enough? And another thing is to have conversations with the women in the room. You know, if you're comfortable doing so, are they, checking in with them? Are they happy? Because, you don't want to, as a woman, you don't want a man to fight your battles for you. But sometimes, if you need some support, having the opportunity to ask would be helpful. So overall, it's just making, do your best to make sure that, women have a chance, especially if they're younger, more reserved, more junior. Make sure they have the chance to grow as, maybe someone more outspoken, same age, but male.
Brilliant, thank you so much. And Harley, final question from me tonight before I open it up to the floor. So start thinking about your questions, ladies and gentlemen. Harley, what is the best piece of career advice you give?
I don't know where it's from, somewhere online, but I remember seeing a thing, and it was talking about how when women start to get into particular industries, sort of the way that people think about that industry starts to go down. So it becomes less prestigious because women are doing it instead of the men. And they were sort of pursuing this idea of your career is when you and no one else. So wherever you want to take your career, whatever things you find interesting, pursue that. And there might be some other role that's more prestigious in someone else's eyes, but you're the one that's going to be sitting down every day and doing the work. And your career is about you. So do what you want and not what you think someone else thinks you should want.
It's great. It's really good advice. Thank you. This is the first event we've actually run like this of its nature, and from what we're getting from you, it's definitely something we should be doing more of.
So thank you so much for that feedback that you're giving back to us. It is very important, building up a network, having that support base, because tech can be a lonely place for women, and it is important that we have networks of those connections and build those allies, male and female. So tonight, please talk to one another. There's loads of food. Please help yourselves, have a drink. I know we have run over quite a bit, so thank you for those that are still here. But it is very important. Please, stay in touch. If you want to stay behind, have a chat with the panel. Anyone with a LoveTech T-shirt, come and chat to us. If anyone is interested in becoming a mentor or getting involved in the charity, please come and chat to us. We would love to hear from you. But we are so grateful for you coming out tonight, giving up your precious time. Very grateful to our panel for sharing your stories and the power of mentoring. And I've been inspired, I'm sure everyone in the room has been too. And thank you so much, ladies. So.